Thanks for being here. Well, it seems that African National Congress Secretary General Fikile Mbalula has let his mouth write checks that he cannot cash. What am I talking about? Well, talking specifically about the nonsense that he's been spewing about this financial dispute with this company that provided posters for the 2019 national election. And so he's been running his mouth, and he's now been reined in by senior leadership of the African National Congress after running around spewing nonsense, claiming bribes and claiming there was no contract, despite the fact that multiple courts have determined there was, in fact, a contract that the ANC owes the money. These people take South Africans for idiots. They truly do think that South Africans are not very bright and will believe any nonsense that they spew. So what's happened? There was a deadline of close of business on Wednesday, which is now 2 days ago, for the African National Congress to come up with the 100, I don't know what the actual figure is because it's been reported as 102 million rand. It's been reported as 140 million rand. Also very high interest rates. Whatever the amount is, it's not insignificant. What is this guy doing? Wow, we got a FedEx delivery truck turning around in somebody's driveway. Why is he doing that? This is, sorry folks, this is a bit distracting. Okay, that's unusual. Anyway, yeah, so they had a suspense of Wednesday to pay the money they owe. The sheriff from the North Gauteng High Court entered the Lutuli House, that's the headquarters of the African National Congress there in South Africa, categorized and cataloged all of the items that were on the 4th through the 6th floor for confiscation to repossess these assets because the ANC couldn't pay its debt. Additionally, they seized the bank accounts and found that there were less than 100,000 rand in the bank accounts, which raises the question because Fikile Mbalula came out and ran his mouth and said, oh, well, we have plenty of money. We meet all our creditors. We pay all our bills. Really? So why is only 100,000 rand in your account less than a year before a major national election? Was the money cleaned out? Did you clean out your accounts so it couldn't be taken? That's a fair question. I think this investigator needs to take a close look at that. But here's what's happened now, folks. Ezulweni, that's the company, Ezulweni, has halted the liquidation application for the ANC because President Ramaphosa himself has intervened. Ezulweni Investment has given the ANC until December 12th to settle the 102 million rand debt issue. According to the company, this comes out after the party veterans reached out to them to resolve the matter. So this is what they had to say. Ezulweni has decided to ponder and pause its intention to proceed with the liquidation proceedings against the African National Congress. Wow. So what's going on here, folks? What's going on here? Does this company really want its money, or is there some shenanigans going on here politically? We don't know. It's a fair question, I think. Now, the ANC takes a very different approach suddenly as they push aside and marginalize Fikile Mbalula, which is where he needs to be, and his mouth that can't cash checks that it writes. He's been pushed aside. They've changed their position, claiming now that they'll talk to Ezulweni rather than say that their officials were bribed, there was no contract. So they've changed their tack. Party veterans are now sent out as emissaries to liaise with this company and get rid of liquidation threats. The ANC leaders themselves believe that Fikile Mbalula has mishandled the matter, and therefore Ramaphosa has stepped into the fray. Ezulweni has revealed to the press that a group of party elders had reached out to it with urgent desire and intention to intervene and resolve the impasse. There's no impasse here. The ANC is bankrupt. The ANC owes money to this company. The ANC has tried to avoid paying this company by going to court, by making appeals to court on no legal basis whatsoever, doing one appeal after another, trying to run out the clock and not pay this company. So there's no impasse here. The impasse here is the criminal actions of the African National Congress in failing to pay their debts and then failing to follow court orders. Now, the event company's attorney, Shafiq Sarli, claimed that the group, which had begged, the group of ANC leaders, begged Ezulweni to pause the liquidation matters, believed that Mbalula had overstepped and mishandled the matter. This is what he said. He said they have requested and beseeched Ezulweni not to commence liquidation proceedings against the ANC, fearing further reputational damage it will do to the ANC and the dire implications such proceedings will have for the ruling party. Well, the implications are that they won't be able to run in the 2024 national elections. That's the implications. Where's Patrice Motsepe? Where is Cyril Ramaphosa? Where is Tokyo Sexwale with all the deep money pockets? Where are the white monopoly capitalists? Where is Bell Pottinger? Where are all the deep-pocketed friends of the ANC? They're not anywhere to be found. Now, Sarli added that the elders said this would enable them to engage the party's leadership to resolve the matter. And should the intervention fail, they would take cessation of the claim and debt owed. So the ANC is still threatening they're not going to pay. They're not going to pay if you can't resolve this. So what they're trying to do, you want to bet right now, ANC leaders are threatening Bezuidenhout. You want to bet? You want to take a bet? This is a subjunctive. It could, should. It's not a statement that they are. But you want to bet that the ANC is threatening. Guarantee it. No doubt about it. Or they're making promises of access and patronage, whatever it takes. But Bezuidenhout is in a position to do something that the National Party and the apartheid regime could never do, although they nearly accomplished it, something the voters have failed to do, and that's to make the ANC irrelevant. Now, Sarli said it's hoped that the meaningful engagements will be concluded by 12 December between all the interested parties, and whereafter Bezuidenhout will announce its further intentions and plans to recover the long outstanding debt. Meanwhile, Bezuidenhout will forge ahead with its vehement opposition to the application brought by the ANC to the Constitutional Court, which has no legal basis, no merit. Despite the halt and extended deadline of the payment from Wednesday until the 12th, gives them almost a week, they will still forge, the ANC says they'll still forge their vehement opposition to the application. I'm sorry, that's actually, it's actually, Bezuidenhout will oppose the ANC's court action. As stated before, the application is without merit and any substance whatsoever. Bezuidenhout will in due course file its opposing affidavit challenging the application, in which opposing papers will speak for themselves. Now, the ANC hasn't said anything about the recent statement from Bezuidenhout, but on Wednesday, Fikile Mbalula, of course, opened his mouth, stuck his foot in it, and got the ANC even deeper, denying that the ANC had ever entered into any deal with the company to provide service, despite the fact that obviously the court has seen contracts signed and that they actually did get involved in this. So, Now, Mbalula also stated that there was no way that he would not have seen such a deal worth millions for only posters and banners. My question is this. What was the role of Fikile Mbalula in the 2019 national elections? Was he the campaign manager? He wasn't the Secretary General of the ANC. That wasn't him. It was Ace back then, wasn't it? So what was his role? What was his role? How would he have access to this information years ago? This 102 million rand is a lot of money, and Bezuidenhout wants to liquidate the party. They never rendered service. So is Fikile Mbalula a bull-faced liar? Should he be charged with crimes? It's a fair question. He also added that the deal was fraudulent and alleged that the company had bribed two of its staffers. Well, the courts have not seen it that way, Fikile Mbalula. Public opinion has not seen it that way. The African National Congress is a corrupt kleptocracy that has stolen and pilfered from South Africans for decades. They're a disgrace to the liberation movement. They're a disgrace to governance. They're a disgrace to pretty much everything that they claim to stand for. They don't stand for anything except self-enrichment and egotism, and it's a disgrace. For a party that had a reasonably fair start at reconciliation and rebuilding and a market-based economy and economic growth for the first half a dozen years, since then it's devolved into what ZANU-PF has always been in Zimbabwe, a party there because it's our turn to eat. That's what it's all about. I mean, the endless list of major scandals in South Africa, corruption scandals, is too long to detail. It would take me a half an hour just to run through and explain half a dozen of these scandals, from the arms deal to Pala to Nkandla to Travelgate to Oilgate to PPE scandals to the Digital Vibe scandal to the Rated Dairy scandal. You get it. You get it. This is a party that is intent on robbing South Africans. And they do so and claim to be there as a party standing up for South Africans. But they don't stand up for South Africans. They don't stand up for the poor. No, they don't. They try to buy the poor off with SASSA grants. Can you imagine subsisting on $21 a day or $21 a month? $21 a month is what the government gives from taxpayers who actually pay, these 7.1 million people actually pay into the system. They give that money that they steal from those taxpayers to other people to buy their vote. And you know what? A lot of South Africans are pretty stupid. Sorry if that hurts your feelings. A lot of Americans are pretty stupid. Look who they voted for. But we just had by-elections, and the ANC won 63% of the vote in Zeerust in Northwest Province, a province that's under administration because it's corrupt, inept, and cannot be managed. So the national government had to take over the provincial leadership and they can't do it any better, because the ANC ran it into the ground. The major city, one of the major cities in Northwest is, of course, Zeerust, and that city is on its last knees. Of course, we know when the Forum for Democrats got a seat on that council, they uncovered almost immediately tens of millions of dollars of tender fraud that had been occurring in Zeerust. And what happens? The EFF gets 20% of the vote, and the ANC gets 64% of the vote. That's 85% of the people that got their head up their rectums in Zeerust. When I was out there recently, and I went to Rietvlei and interviewed this old Gogo, a grandmother out there, Swana speaker, and asked her if she voted, and she proudly said she did vote. It's her obligation as a citizen. I agree with her. It was my obligation as a citizen to vote as well. And so I asked her, I said, may I ask you, whom do you vote for? The ANC, because I'm supposed to. Why? No, I didn't question her. We were having a good conversation there. But why? Why is it your obligation to vote for the ANC? They didn't deliver freedom. They didn't deliver liberty. They didn't end apartheid. All they've done is come in office and destroy South Africa. And the list of destruction gets longer by the day. We now know that 90% of municipal water fed to South Africans isn't even meeting safety standards. 46% is dangerously polluted. What is going on here? How is this even possible? Water that's pristine and clear coming from the Drakensberg, from Lesotho, through the Highlands Water Project to Joburg, and it's not clean when it gets to residents, although Joburg is one of the ones that did get a Blue Drop Award. But only a handful of municipalities managed to get the top rankings for water in South Africa. A scarce resource to begin with. Only 12% of South Africa's area, 13% of the surface area of South Africa is arable for crop rotation and planting for agriculture. That gives you an idea how dry the country overall is. And this scarce resource of water is mismanaged by the ANC. Just one statistic after another. You know, now that figure was over 90% in 2014. Let's run the clock. Who has run the country? Who has run all but the Western Province? Who has run all but a handful of municipalities since 2014? The African National Congress. The African National Congress. And the water quality has degraded. Not because of climate change, not because of white monopoly capital, not because of evil white racists, not because of Afrikaners, not because of Jan van Riebeeck, not because of the evil West, but because of the incompetence, the malfeasance, the corruption, the theft, the patronage of the ruling party. That is why the water quality in South Africa has degraded to such a level. Never mind the fact that today, in the Washington Times, a newspaper in America that never focuses on South Africa, never covers a story on South Africa, has a story talking about the parole of Oscar Pistorius, using that as the backdrop to talk about the rampant violence, murder, and it's taking place in South Africa, how criminals are never captured. Even the Washington Times is paying attention to South Africa's misery now. South Africans suffering immeasurably because of a corrupt party. There can be no redemption for the African National Congress. They're trying to paint themselves as saviors. Just today, Paul Mashatile says that Paul Mashatile, the deputy president, says he's taking a vow against taking bribes. Really? You've been in power for 29 years. You're just now seeing the light? You have to take a vow not to be a thief? The oath of office you took when you came in office should have been sufficient. You don't need an oath to not steal. Your job is not to steal. And he comes out now. The problem is that millions of South Africans are dumb enough to believe this and ignore the rape, the murder, the pillaging, the plundering, the profiting, the corrupt BE tenders, the racism of the ruling party that's been going on in South Africa for decades. Where's the world? This is my question to the world. Where are you at? Where are you? You rightly stood up and said when a minority population in South Africa oppressed the majority population, that the system of separate development, as it was implemented, turned into a race-based political system, and it was morally wrong. The world stood up to that. It took a while, but they stood up to that. But now, the exact same thing is happening, except it's even worse. At least under the National Party, they kept crime under control by and large, except in some black neighborhoods. They kept the electricity on for those who had access to electricity. The water was clean. The rails were functional. The economy was growing despite sanctions. All of that, the barriers, the sanctions, the international pariah status of South Africa, all disappears. And a bright new dawn appears before us in 1994. That's all been pissed down the drain by a corrupt, venal kleptocracy that's out of control. Where's the world? Where's the world? Where's the world when South Africa allies itself with Putin, who invades Ukraine kidnaps Ukrainian kids, one of the acts considered to be a part and parcel of genocide, silent. But when Israel retaliates against the brutal gang rape, murder, beheadings, burning of babies, executions of innocent civilians at a music festival and in southern Israel, when Israel retaliates with a great deal of restraint, waiting a few weeks before they went after them, the South African politicians run around and talk about genocide and apartheid. Where was the ANC's anger at Hamas? Where is the ANC's anger at Putin? The obvious communist, racist bent of the African National Congress is there for everyone to see. You just have to be willing to open your eyes. That's the bottom line, folks. You just have to be willing to open your eyes. If you open your eyes, you can see what's going on in South Africa. And it's harming all South Africans, especially black South Africans. Millions of whom are now destined to a life of grinding poverty, not because of white racism and white political systems that depress and oppress them, no, but because of a majority black party that oppresses its very own citizens who are black, brown, and white. Shame. Folks, that's my news update on liquidation of the African National Congress. It's on hold until December 12th as Cyril Ramaphosa and other senior members of the African National Congress seek to intervene to stop Bezuidenhout from liquidating their company. Bezuidenhout should liquidate the ANC and change the political landscape of South Africa. They'll be hailed as heroes by many, villains by others, but it's better to be on the side of the angels than on the side of the devil. And by claiming the money they're owed from a bankrupt, corrupt kleptocracy, Bezuidenhout will do South Africans a major favor and alter the course of South African history. Liquidate them now. Don't fall for the patronage. Don't fall for the bribes. Don't fall for the threats that are coming your way now from senior leaders of the African National Congress. Hey, folks, thanks a lot. Be sure to hit the like button. Join us if you're not a subscriber. And we will see you on the news program coming up here shortly. Cheers. Be safe out there. And thank you very much. Appreciate it.